Year 8 sets 1 and 2. The Giver is a dystopian novel, so it's set in a different world, a future world that's uneasy, that's not a very positive world. It explores themes of delusion, so misunderstanding, not knowing the difference between right and wrong, perception, and it also explores the theme of inner courage. It's all based around a 12-year-old boy named Jonas, and he starts to question the world that he's living in, which seems perfect and ideal. He realizes very quickly that the world isn't as perfect as he thought, and the reader goes on a journey with Jonas as he discovers this. It's therefore a book about the strength and courage of a young child and standing up for what is right. It's considered as one of the first young adult dystopian novels that inspired lots of other books that your children will probably be familiar with as films such as The Hunger Games. Hopefully, this book will really engage all of them because it's the same age as them and it is such a uncomfortable read that it's making you question a lot of different things, but in a really safe and engaging way because Jonas, the young boy, is a very likeable character. So that's The Giver that Year 8 sets 1 and 2 will be reading as their first form book. I'm going to now pass over to Miss Keynes to introduce you to the next book.
Thank you, Mrs. Meachin. The next novel is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and this is for our Year 9 cohort, so sets 1 to 4. Poet X is an innovative novel written by an American Dominican poet called Elizabeth Acevedo. The novel is set in Harlem, New York, and is written using different forms of poetry, and it is this creative writing that sets the novel apart from what we often see traditionally. Xiomara is the main character in the novel, and she takes us on a journey of her teenage life and the obstacles that some teenagers can relate to. She's a keen poet herself who enters a competition to showcase her amazing talent. However, her mother disagrees with some of her choices because of her strict upbringing and religious background. There are themes of love, religion, standing your ground, and fighting for what you believe in. The novel carefully explores sexuality through Xiomara's brother, and it also shows that the relationship she has with him and with the people within the community. It is an important thing to note that at times throughout the novel there are curse words, so there is a bit of profanity. However, this helps us to understand the character's feelings and emotions, as well as giving us a real-life insight into the protagonist. Overall, it is an innovative and exciting novel that all of our young people can relate to and apply their own lives to, and their feelings and their own desires. Ultimately, students will be exposed to a different structured novel, relatable themes, and the expression of thoughts and feelings through poetry. All about a young teenage Latin American girl who, like them, has to find her own voice and way in the world. I'm now going to pass over to Miss Matthews. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Keynes. I'm going to speak with you today about the book that we'll be reading with 8.5, 8.6 and 9.5. The book is called Island of the Blue Dolphins, and it's about a 12-year-old girl who escapes death at the hands of different people that she doesn't recognise and are different to her and her community. She finds herself totally alone throughout the novel, and she really conquers many different things throughout the story that we find gripping and inspiring throughout. It's based on a true story, and it's all about survival and being independent. Some of the key themes that we see within this story are friendship, independence, forgiveness, moral development, but the two real ones are loneliness and death. Something that our main character comes across within the story is the loss of many loved ones, and in particular a sibling, her brother. This is something that we understand may be quite upsetting to some students, but the way it's dealt with within the text is very inspiring, and the young lady becomes conqueress over all at the end. We really hope that they enjoy reading this novel with us, and we look forward to finding out what they feel about the young girl's journey when they finish the story. I'm going to pass now back to Miss Keynes.
Thank you, Miss Matthews. The next novel is called Number the Stars, and this is for our Year 8 cohort, particularly set 3 to 4. Number the Stars is an insightful novel written by a wonderful author, Lois Lowry. And although it is fiction, the author uses factual information from World War II to inform us of some of the atrocities that took place during the time. The main character is a 10-year-old girl, Anne-Marie, who takes us on a journey with her family, who rally together to help the Jewish community to flee Denmark and the Nazi soldiers. You will find that this is an emotive novel that encourages the reader to empathize with the characters. And you will see the courage of Anne-Marie, who tries to understand these injustices and tries to make sense of the world around her. The death of her own sister is also revealed to us, and this is once again an emotional point in the novel. And again, we can understand how this might affect some students. The author uses tension to help the reader to reflect on some of the events from the Holocaust throughout the novel too. This is further evident when Anne-Marie and her family support her Jewish neighbours to leave their home and seek refuge near the Denmark borders. Anne-Marie is inquisitive, just like we want to encourage our own students to be, and she is brave. And she asks her mother to explain to her why her best friend Ellen has to leave the country and all that she knows. Ultimately, students will have the opportunity to learn many things about a very important part in history. And I'm going to hand you over back to Mrs. Meacham.
Thank you, Miss Keynes. Okay, so I'm going to go through our final 2 books then for our Year 7. So first of all then, our Year 7 sets 1 to 4. The book that we have chosen for them to read is called Who Let the Gods Out? And it's actually part 1 of a 4-book series written by Maz Evans. This is one of my favourite books that we've chosen because it is very, very funny. It's a typical adventure story with a sprinkling of comedy and lots of ancient Greek myths and legends. So the ideal book, in my opinion. It's often hilarious, and it creates really great characters that the students can straight away either identify with or have good fun getting to know. Despite though the comedy and the adventure, it also deals with some really difficult topics, and the young boy that we follow throughout the book, Elliot, is actually struggling at home as a young carer. It's an excellent way Maz Evans really sympathetically and carefully exposes us to the difficulties that Elliot's facing and the hard decisions that he's having to make virtually alone, while also having this comedic and fun adventure going on around him. It makes it a very memorable read, and we're hoping that as this is part of that 4-book series, it will inspire students to continue reading the series and continue getting to know the characters better. In this first book in particular, Elliot is on a mission to help the gods save humanity. And throughout the books, he will be doing the same thing. He has got to collect these particular items, like a true quest, to save humanity. We work alongside Elliot, and we never know throughout the book, there are lots of ups and downs, whether he is going to manage it. So that's the book for set 1, 2, 3 and 4. So sets 5 and 6 then, their book is called Run Wild, and it's by Jill Lewis. This book is part of a series of books that has been written specifically for a target group of children that are progressing with their reading. We've chosen this book because not only does it have really exciting topics and discussions in it, but it also is accessible. Often there is a difficulty finding accessible books that really help students to grapple with reading and progress their reading while also being interesting to 11 and 12-year-olds. But Jill Lewis really manages this in the book Run Wild. So this book itself then is a book that's very thought-provoking, and it's meant to highlight the need for children to experience nature, to get out into the world and not just sit inside all the time, which I'm sure you can agree with us is something we want to encourage our children to do. It delicately explores the natural bond between children and nature. The children in this book live in an urban city, exactly like our children, where lots of nature is hidden behind houses and they don't have their own space to go. The children, though, discover a hidden wildlife within this urban jungle, for want of a better phrase, and they use it as their own. Each character, though, responds to the situation in a very different way, and that really helps our pupils to choose a character that they identify with and be able to move along this journey with them. We hope that this encourages our students to look outside of themselves, to think about the natural world a little bit more, and to discover